The Adventures of Justin and Jonas featuring Dr. Andrew Locke available now on Spotify. Stream the full episode and many more like it. Only on Spotify. Link in the description.
Why do you think that is, that they're misdiagnosing or they're missing things in treatment?
That goes to a long way into the fact that I really see a lot of it is universities became, I suppose, cut off from the government funding, and they had to start to fund themselves a lot more. All right, so you had to really try and increase the amount of money you are able to make out of students. Well, you've also got to be able to get some research up. And research, you want to get people paying for research subjects. You end up getting academics who are not clinical successes. You get academics who are sitting down, who are basically going to write papers to try and get grants. And then not clinicians who have spent years examining patients out on the footy field, out in the football field, out in the baseball field. They're not seeing clinicians who are spending their days working hard with patients. You're getting academics who are teaching who really don't have very much good hands-on experience. One of the most basic tests that we ever did, and I use and I teach in all my courses, is how to test and understand a hip structure. Man, I've yet to have a student who's come to me over the last 10 years who could do that test. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense unless you're being taught by people who don't know it. So I think that's the biggest problem in the academic world now is, read the research. But by the way, you're not allowed to read research over 5 years old because that's old research. That's not even science. That's called a recency bias. That's a cognitive bias. That's not science. There's no scientific reason you can't quote a study from the 1800s if it's still scientifically valid. Yet the universities will universally say, you can't, to a student, you can't quote a research paper, especially older than 10 years. Why not? Well, our academics have just written the last 10 years worth of papers, so we want you quoting them. That's all you're going to learn. You're not going to learn the science that actually underpins everything, that actually shows that your recent academics are useless.
So it just becomes this awful feedback loop.
Totally. Absolutely. I just taught a doctor of physiotherapy class at one of the major universities here. It was really interesting to chat to them afterwards. They're almost final years, and they were never understanding and never taught some of the basic theory work that underpins why we do what we do. It's pretty frightening that there does seem to be no accountability to the academics. They don't care. They get paid. They'll put out crap research. There's a research paper that gets quoted saying there's no demonstrated difference in lifting with a bent back or lifting with a neutral spine, right? No difference in injury rate. That paper is a summary of papers that the largest load lifted is 12 kilograms. Okay. Well, an empty barbell weighs 20 kilograms. So, of course, it doesn't matter when it's under 12 kilograms. In fact, every piece of research that we have using spines demonstrates you need to have a larger load. But people are going to call that evidence, and it's frightening. People call themselves doctors who actually quote that crap. And you go, you're not making any sense. You just said that it doesn't matter how you lift, but every bar in the gym's heavier than that, what you just quoted.
It's so scary that it's happening in like your field and what you're seeing in all these colleges and all these universities.
Yeah,
because then it gets applied to these.
Yeah.
It gets applied to these big businesses, and everyone takes their word for it.
That is the problem, isn't it? Yes. And I do speak to professionals from so many different areas. Got some fantastic psychologists who are friends, and they say same thing in their field. They see the same vitriol, the same fighting amongst all the different professionals there with ideas and avoiding realistically the older research that has existed. Nutrition, there's a great one, isn't it? How much has nutritional field been fucked up? It's out there.
Yeah.
You look at the fights that are there. Look at the latest US food pyramid. What? That's astounding.
Yeah.
Putting Cheerios in front of steak.
Yeah, it becomes kind of like a joke when a psychologist says, "Oh, we're going back to Freud again."
Absolutely. So all the professions appear to say there's a lot of problems, probably in the more recent academic world and publishing. there's a lot of sense out there if we take our time and go through some of the earlier research and start to build some building blocks. Man, I can tell you the first recorded sciatic nerve injury was 6,000 years ago. It's in chapter 32 of Genesis of the Bible. Jacob wrestling with the angel. I mean, we actually do have some very interesting footprints out there. So, as I say, dog prints in the snow. You can start to see them and start to follow them. It's like tracking. You start to track the science that started a long time ago, the observations that were made by people.
Stream the adventures of Justin and Jonas only on Spotify. Scroll our catalogue of guests and episodes featuring names like Rubber Big Baby Scumbag, Coach Mutt Wenning, and Black Belt in Jiu-Jitsu Super Bench Presser and Trainer Midwest Kong. You can check out our episode with coach and bodybuilder Leon Davis, where we talk interactive neuromuscular stimulation, coaching, and prep for bodybuilding. Or check out our podcast with Brad Abbott, who's a powerlifter and coach who's totaled over 2,000 pounds in powerlifting meets. Better yet, go stream up our podcast with Olivia Collett, who's a female bodybuilder and on the road to getting her pro card. Follow the Instagram bent_bobbles to keep up to date on announcements and clips from the podcast. Once again, that's Bent Bobble on Instagram to keep up to date on all things Justin and Jonas. No matter what though, Justin and Jonas always have another adventure ahead of them, so stay tuned for more content.